The penultimate week of the college football season is here. This is the Pigskin Preview. I'm Nick Roush, joined by Adam Luckett, and we're always brought to you by our friends at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Check out the app. It's great. You're great for being back here with us again. We've only got 2 weeks of regular season college football action left before conference championship week, then a little Army-Navy action. It's exciting time, Luckett. I love, too, the name we affectionately give this weekend. And Kentucky they don't get to be a part of the action. SoCon Saturday.
Yeah, but it'll be back next year. I believe next year, I think they kind of rotate teams on. So Kentucky should be back on, I believe, next year. After having 2 years in a row where they didn't have that.
Yeah. Oh, well, your mic went out. Might want to get that checked out. Your setting.
Yeah, Kentucky should be back to SoCon Saturday this year, but this year got a little something different playing. A rare November trip to Columbia, South Carolina. Nick, and for us here, we had a nice bounce back week. Here at the Pigskin Preview, Luckett's column had a 7-3 week, so we're back on the good side of things, and we're looking to close strong here before next week. One of the best, my favorite weekend of the year, obviously. Rivalry weekend. You get the Thanksgiving Egg Bowl. You get Black Friday games.
Whoa! Hold up. You're skipping the biggest game, the Nebraska-Iowa. Come on.
Yeah, Black Friday. Yeah.
Thanksgiving NFL. We get a Black Friday NFL game this year. So, and I believe that's a pretty good one. Chargers, Dolphins, Jets. Oh, Jets. Gross. Nevertheless, though, a lot of football, and then you get all of the Feast Week basketball tournaments. So it's an exciting time. If you haven't been checking out Luckett's full slate of picks, it's on KS Board. Sign up, join us. It's a lot of fun. We're really cooking with grease right now with basketball season back in full swing. So a lot of fun happening over there right now. I want to touch on some of the bigger games of the weekend. The ones that I had marked down, I think we've got action on. But Utah-Oregon State's intriguing to me, Luckett, because it feels like this Oregon State team has been frisky all year. Actually, Oregon State, Washington. Sorry, it's Utah, Arizona. That's those two Pac-12 games though. I got the opponents mixed up. I think they're going to be a lot of fun, but I worry about the favorites in this spot against these opponents because these programs aren't used to that, right? Arizona's had a surprisingly good year. They're not used to being a favorite over Utah, and they don't even get the Pac-12 After Dark kind of night game bump either. That's going to be played at, I want to say 11:30 local time. So that's a little weird, and I do think Oregon State probably has a little bit more, with them kind of getting left in the dust in this conference realignment shake. This probably is going to be built up as their Super Bowl, but I mean, do you trust the folks in Corvallis to play spoiler? I guess if I say it out loud, Washington getting spoiled by Oregon State and Corvallis it's the most Pac-12 thing ever, right?
Right. Yeah, that line's moving away from Washington, but this one's going to be in the column, Nick. I won't be here, but I'm going to be on Washington. Here. Better quarterback, better offense. Oregon State, while pretty good, is not built to win a track meet. I think Washington will be able to turn it into a little bit of a track meet. I think the wrong team is favored here. I would have Washington as a very, very, very small favorite. So I'm going to take that. What is it? It's up to 2.5 right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take those points. Washington will be a play. I think we could get a couple favorable calls up there in Corvallis. Would not be surprised. But I think we're trending to that Oregon-Washington rematch for a chance to go to the playoff there in Las Vegas in a couple weeks. So I'm going to be on Washington here, but I'm very excited. Kentucky will be locked in, obviously, but that is the clear best game on the card this week.
Yeah, I'm also curious too if Washington was just kind of playing with their food a little bit. The offense hasn't been just playing murder ball as of late, so I'm a little. That's part of me where I'm a little bit skeptical.
Nick, how you feeling on the Louisville Cardinals at the Miami Hurricanes?
Man, I actually wanted to take them because of something our friend Josh Newberg said on Andy Staples' show, but it was just factually wrong. It was the most wrong thing I've ever heard, that losing to Florida State somehow kills Miami. You got to go back to 2018 to find a game they lost after losing to Florida State. So, like, that just I wanted to, like, play that trend. And there's part of me that does think that they might have just tuck their tails and run with 2 games left to go in the year. They got to bring Tyler Van Dyke back in, and that's kind of awkward. And I think being a road dog that Louisville might be able to pull something out of them, but I worry about Louisville in the trenches because Jeff said it earlier this week. This is the most talented teams they've played. So if Jordan can't pop a few runs, where does that leave them offensively? I think the good news and why I might end up taking the Cards, though, is, I mean, what's Miami going to score? 17 points? I mean, with Tyler Van Dyke back there, he's just going to throw it to him. So that ultimately, I think Louisville has a slight advantage, even though Miami's going to whoop their ass in the trenches.
I think you're sleeping a little bit on this Miami offense. It's not as bad as you think. I think people have gotten Dawsoned, but if you kind of look at them, they've had some big moments and big games. To me, Nick, who's the best team Louisville's played on the road? Away from home.
Georgia Tech in the Dome, probably.
Neutral field. NC State is the answer. And that offense is terrible. And they had to squeeze that one out. Georgia Tech, they had to squeeze out. Pittsburgh, they got beat. Indiana, they had to squeeze out.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me this Louisville team is going to go and just pull away from Miami in a huge spot for Mario Cristobal? That's the thing. I think when you handicap this game, this is a monstrous game for Miami. He cannot afford to go 7-5 this year. Cannot do it. Like they have to fight. They have to win this game. There's no getting around it. I think because of that, you're going to get Miami's best effort. I think Miami is the second best team Louisville has played this year. I think they'll be able to stop the run. You mentioned that front, their defensive front. That's one thing they do well on defense is stop the run. I like Miami here. I like Miami about double digits. Like this is an alternate line I'm going to look at.
Ooh, interesting.
It's circumstance here, right? I just think the circumstance here, Louisville hasn't played many good teams away from home. They've played some bad offenses. Miami will be the second best offense they've played, Nick. Either them or Georgia Tech, right? This will be the best receiving core they've played all year, Louisville. Like, they played some bad receiving cores this year. This will be the best one. So I like the Canes here. I think this is a huge game for Cristobal. And, like, you get a chance to get a top 10 win, right? If you're Miami, you can play that
that's
up.
true. It's hard.
So I like
hard,
Miami here.
Miami's just such a weird place that, I mean, what's the crowd going to be like? I don't really know. It's so hard to just be able to put your thumb on where they're at as a pro, because I mean, we were listening to them
they have to win this game. That's just where I'm at. Like, they could play in Egypt. Like, they have to win this game, and I think Cristobal is going to have them locked in. I think like how they played at Florida State, I think they can kind of build off that, right? Like,
that's true.
Game,
I mean, they had a chance to go down there and tie the game in overtime. Yeah,
and they had Carolina. They were right there. They could have won that game. And they at home, like, they've won every game except the one Cristobal messed up.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech at home. I like this spot. I like this spot a lot for Miami, and I think they're the second best team Louisville has played. And then Louisville away from home has been iffy, even with the light schedule. Like, Pitt rocked them in the second half. NC State easily could have won that game if their offense could have done anything. I mean, that was one of the worst offensive performances I've seen all season. And then Indiana was right there. So, to me, I think, like, there's three scenarios. Miami wins big, Miami wins close, or Louisville wins close. I think you could get some good odds with Miami winning big. So that's where I'm leaning in this one.
The thing to note, too, that we'll be mentioning next week is their record in one-score games.
Yeah.
That doesn't last forever. That doesn't last forever. something else to keep in mind when you're handicapping. We are handicapping some of the best games in college football this weekend. They're part of our locks. Quickly, before we get into those picks, if a Louisville loss happens, North Carolina wins, then Kentucky's going to get a night game on ACC Network probably. Is that what we're thinking?
No, I think that game's already filled. I think they're looking at 12 and 3:30 ABC. I think.
Well, no. Well, they can do 3:30 or 7:30 on the network for that other game. So there's whispers too that they would do an ACC SEC Network 7:30 simulcast too.
SEC's already got a game at 7:30.
Oh, they do. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I messed that one up then. But nevertheless, I worry that a North Carolina win at Clemson, they'll get the ABC nooner if that happens.
Regardless, the ABC is going to want a Louisville team ranked in that window. So I feel pretty safe
About a day game.
I think the key here, Nick, is they're trying to see if North Carolina wins. Like if North Carolina wins this game, the ACC is still in doubt.
Right.
So they're probably going to want that game to be second.
Premier position.
Like if North Carolina's still in it, I would assume they want that to be in the primetime window. If they win, they're in the ACC championship. But if they don't lose it, I think they would maybe prefer Louisville to be at 3:30. So I think it's going to be noon or 3:30.
Okay. All right.
I could be wrong, but I don't think they're going to stick ranked ACC against their SEC rival in the ACC network window. But I mean, again, I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, you're never
wrong. I've been wrong before, but that's kind of how I see it on that. And that ends my scheduling TED Talk.
And this begins the part where I tell you to download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app, and use the promo code PERSONNEL. You make your first moneyline bet. Bet $5 on that money line, you win $150 in bonus bets. Whether that's a big favorite or a big dog and you're trying to get some juice, the $150 in bonus bets are there if you win. Promo code Pigskin, when you sign up for FanDuel. FanDuel.com, promo code Pigskin when you sign up. No matter what you want to play. A lot of these other sports books, you can't shop around Heisman odds, the futures like you can here. You can still get win totals with only 2 games left in the season. I know our friend, the Sports Talker, he has Louisville under 10 wins. So he's just betting that he basically just had them. All right, well, if they lose any of their 3 games, this bet hits, right? So a lot of fun ways to play at the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Must be 21 and older, present in Kentucky. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bet, which expired 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Luckett. I like where our heads are at. We've got some great synergy this week. And here's something that I'm going to do that I normally just play on my own, but it's just got to be one of my locks this week, and that's the Iowa under. It's been Old Faithful all year long, and now Cooper DeJean is out, perhaps for the year, depending on what bowl game they play in. He is their most electric playmaker. He's also their cornerback. But from a return game standpoint, I mean, that Michigan State game that you got burned on, like it, that doesn't happen if Cooper DeJean doesn't get the big special teams return, right? Why they're so good in these field position games and then getting their scores is he plays a significant role in that. They're not going to have him. So I think in an ugly affair, like this, 30.5, that's high for an Iowa game this time of year. So go ahead, let me take that under, Mr. Luckett.
Yeah, could definitely see that. This game was 9-6 last year in Champaign.
Hey, they were champagne popping last week, though. They put up a lot of points against the Hoosiers.
The thing with Illinois, it's 2 weeks in a row, really, that John Paddock, Ball State quarterback transfer, has come in for Luke Altmaier, and they've just exploded on offense. But we see Minnesota now, what they did last week against Purdue just got shredded. And then Indiana, their defense is not good. And so I think we're going to see a big regression to the mean here from Illinois. Quietly, Nick, Deacon Hill had his best game of the year last week against Rutgers. Threw for over
Ooh.
200 yards. Iowa is playing for a division title. They clinched the West with a win here. Season win total of 8 goes over here for us. So we're going to lay the field goal in the hook. Kinnick Stadium, Iowa, like them in a revenge spot, like them in a championship clinching game. So give me the Hawks -3.5 against Illinois. Phil Parker will figure out a way to put this MAC quarterback in a straitjacket, because this is what Iowa does. And Nick, don't fool yourself for a second if you don't think Iowa has another badass white boy cornerback over there. They are going to throw someone out there who'll probably get a pick, might score. Give me the Hawkeyes -3.5. They lock up a trip to Indianapolis.
See, I appreciate that we start things off with Iowa football before we get to some real football games that are being played. And the biggest one of the weekend in the Southeastern Conference, Saturday, 3:30 CBS. Georgia is going to Rocky Top. And typically we're just picking sides here. And I'm pretty confident that Georgia's going to cover that 10.5. But you think Tennessee is going to score more than 24 points? Not a snowball's chance in hell. I think the Vols 21 is the 21 is the most the team has scored on Georgia this year. And I know a lot of those games were at home, but I don't see where does Tennessee scoring. So the team total for Tennessee is currently 23.5. I got it down to 21.5, but you can get even better juice at the 20. I was tempted to do it, but I was like, I don't want to get some garbage time touchdown beat on that. I know that game was at home last weekend, but I trust Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss a lot more than Josh Heupel and Joe Milton right now, where they really – I think they're in a bad spot because there was, I think, some belief there for a while, Luckett, that the offense would finally get going, but this just is what it is. And in those games where they're scoring in the upper 20s and 30s, because they're having other stuff to go their way, you know? So I have a hard time thinking that Georgia's going to shoot itself in the foot and give Tennessee some easy scoring opportunities. So Tennessee under 23.5 team total. I've already wagered it down at plus money at 21.5.
Tennessee scored 17 2021 against Georgia, scored 13 2022 against Georgia. Those two offenses were much better than this one.
Yeah.
And so I like where your head is at. I actually kind of like Tennessee plus 10.5 because Georgia, that was their A game. Last time we saw their A game, in my opinion. Really, we've seen their A game 3 times. Kentucky, they came back, weren't as good against Vanderbilt, didn't cover. Florida came back, weren't as good against Missouri, didn't cover. So I think that trend will stick here. I think this is kind of a good spot for Tennessee. But I'm not going to play it. I just couldn't get there. But I like where your head is at.
Yeah.
It's hard with Joe Milton in this passing game, it's hard to envision that Georgia's going to take the run game away.
Yep.
And you need Joe Milton to be really, really
beat
good.
you.
And we saw Hendon Hooker couldn't even do it last year against this Georgia bunch. And the Georgia defense is not as good as it was the last 2 years, but still pretty good. Even Alabama, they scored 20, Nick, and they just totally fell apart in the second half. And I think one of those was set up by they had like an interception or fumble that set up a really short field for a score. I believe Tennessee did. So I like I like where your head's at in that team total under. That adds up to me.
It checks out. Let's see if the math works. Let's see your second pick.
Yeah, we went here last week, Nick. Didn't go too well for us in Death Valley, but I'm going back again. North Carolina, plus 6.5 at Clemson. Heels have a lot to play for. They're still in the hunt for the ACC title. They got a much-needed win last week. I look at it this way, Nick. We all know Carolina's defense is bad. No one is denying that. But Clemson is flawed offensively. No explosiveness in the passing game. Run game is a little bit better, but they are flawed offensively. North Carolina can score. And against a Clemson defense, they're going to spread it out, and Drake May can make throws. I think they can score enough to stay in this. So I like this spot, fading Clemson after one of their better performances. I think North Carolina goes in here and scores some points. This game goes down to the wire, so I'm going to take the road dog here. Plus 6.5. I just felt like this game should be closer to a field goal, so you're getting doggone near a touchdown. So I'm going to take North Carolina here, plus 6.5.
This was a game that I circled and wanted to discuss because it was originally -7 for Clemson, and a touchdown favorite over anybody is surprising, and then it's also the weird home favorite
team, right? Like a good team,
right? And then they're a home favorite by a touchdown, unranked versus ranked. There was a lot about this that I didn't really get, and then the total at 58.5. I don't know. I watched the end of that Duke North Carolina game a week ago, and I still can't. This is a weird ass North Carolina team. There's no denying it. But in the Clemson defense is, I mean, you're getting good on good there, right? Between those two units. So if that's a push, what happens? That's the part that I'm really confused by this game. You know, I mean, if those two teams duke it out. So I kind of like the under a little bit there because Clemson makes it a little bit messy. I mean, can they score 20? But then the North Carolina defense is bad too. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why this is such a tough game for me. Like, I'm very intrigued by it, and I want to get some action in on it, but I can't get there on any of the ways. I kind of lean one way, the under, kind of lean North Carolina, but it feels real messy to me.
There's one for the Gipper vibes because there's some rumors that this might be the end for Mac Brown.
Which would make sense. He was in tears after that Duke game. Yeah.
And that's a fascinating job to me, Nick, because they're probably getting in the SEC, and you can recruit top 15 classes there because of their location to the DMV. I don't know what their NRL situation is, but I'd imagine North Carolina has money to go get players. That's a really interesting, I think, job opening if it opens. I would be very interested to see that pool of candidates. But this last ride, possibly for Mac Brown with Drake May, they're going to have the best player on the field at the most important position.
It's true.
So
you talked me into it.
Hills here to keep it close.
There we go. You talked me into it. This last game, I talked myself into it, and some of it does. The coaching carousel plays a part in it because Mike Elko is going to be a name and plenty of these vacancies. The biggest one is Texas A&M, where he coached previously. With that being said, they got to go on the road. Their offense has been bad all year, and Virginia's been frisky. Virginia's been really frisky. They haven't won a lot of these games, but they're catching 3.5 at home. I don't think they're very good, but Colandaria, whatever the hell his name is, he's fun. I think that's enough to put maybe Duke on tilt, get them on their heels a little bit. I just think there's just so much uncertainty at Durham, and there's going to be a lot of energy, right? This could be a huge, huge win for Tony Elliott and co. if they're able to get it done. So I'm going to take the frisky Cavs getting the points at home.
Nick, I'm not doing this. I'm not giving Virginia credit for losing a bunch of close games. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know it's loser talk, but Duke stinks, though, right? We can agree Duke stinks, and now they think their coach is going to leave. They can't play offense at all. So, how many points does Virginia have to score to cover 3.5? 14?
I'm not doing it. We need one loss for the Virginia under to cash, and it happens this weekend in Charlottesville. Duke goes in there, laying the points, gets to cover. They find enough offense. They've got a good run defense. They're going to make Virginia one-dimensional. Calandria or Musket or whoever Tony Elliott's deciding to play quarterback is going to throw it to them. And they'll get a big turnover, and they'll go in and win this game. Duke will be in the column this week. I'm going to be on the Blue Devils, so me and you can have a little side bet.
A little line fight. There we go.
We can
just bet it straight up. Save the juice.
There's a reason why this team keeps losing close games. Like there is a reason. It's not necessarily fluky why they keep losing close games.
Well, I'm fine if they lose a close game. Just make a 3-point loss. That's all I'm asking.
2 weeks ago in this similar spot, Georgia Tech went in there and hammered them. Absolutely hammered them.
Yeah, but Georgia Tech can play offense, though, Luckett. That's the part you're forgetting, is that Duke, you could go out there and toss the pigskin around for more yards than whoever they got at quarterback right now. They're terrible offensively.
They will figure it out on Saturday, and they will cover this 3.5. But that's an argument we can have in the car.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll skip the sportsbook juice. We'll just bet it amongst ourselves. Classic. Just spit in the handshake. Put her there.
Next one. We are going to Ames, Iowa. Nick, Texas has not played good football since the Red River. They've not been good, but they just got Quinn Ewers back. It is go time right now for the Horns. If they want to make the playoffs, it's now. So it's time to go. Iowa State's very limited on offense. I think this is a game where Texas kicks it into gear and wins by double digits. So I'm going to lay the points here with the Longhorns on the road, -7.5. I think after playing around with their food here the last couple weeks, I think they find that extra gear and they go and handle Iowa State here on the road. So I'm going to lay the points with the Longhorns with the touchdown and the hook.
All right. I'm a little hungry, speaking of food, so I'm probably going to get to some lunch. But first, Cats gonna win on Saturday, Luckett? You got more confidence than me. Good. Are you gonna put a little action on there?
Another alternate line.
Oh,
I potentially like.
You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first.
Team total over. We talked about that on 11 personnel, Nick. I like Kentucky's team total over. South Carolina is the worst defense Kentucky has played. They're definitely worse, or they're better than Vanderbilt, but they're kind of there with Florida. Florida's pretty bad. Kentucky has scored points on other teams. I think they're going to get out of that schedule. I think the offense is going to have a big day. I really do. I think they'll figure out a way to score 30+. I think the defense will do just enough. I like Kentucky to go down there and win, potentially by double digits. And Nick, Stoops doesn't lose to that team unless he has a backup quarterback in. They've got their quarterback this week. They're 8-0 against the spread when that happens. Stoops against Carolina. I like the spot for Kentucky. I think they go in there, get a nice win, and then sets up them at 7-4, and then we got an interesting rivalry weekend on tap after that happens. But I just like this matchup. This is a team Kentucky should beat. I like how this game sets up. So I like the Cats to go in there and get a win, which will be weird. Go 3-1 on the road in the SEC will just be kind of a cherry on top of what's kind of been a weird season.
It's been a weird year, but a win could go a long way to get the Big Blue Nation back on board for a big rivalry week against the Cards at the Fed Cred. Don't call me Papa John's Cardinal Stadium next Saturday, but Storm this Saturday night will be ready to rock and roll on hand at Williams-Brice Stadium. Come see about it, folks. For Adam Luckett, I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.